Welcome everybody to uSTADIUM Fantasy Live Waiver Week 14. I am Chris, and with me, as always, is the Parlay Prince himself, Stefan Bershboms. How's it going, big guy?
Man, if I could tell you how it's going, I couldn't even put in words. Like, just not only did I clinch a spot in one of these big leagues that I love, I got to see my boy, but
Yeah,
I can't.
You got a Lions win.
Oh
You
my
got
God, that
a lot to celebrate going into the Christmas season. I
Yep.
mean, they got their Super Bowl for the year. They got the dub on a walk-off tutty. Always good to see for the Detroit Lions. You never want to see a team go winless. I mean, they did get the tie, but the win is always better. And the way they did it, too, the final drive, they drove right down the field. It was good to see. Some of the top performers on the week, QB1, Tom Brady, 29.6 fantasy points. The guy is an ageless wonder. I still don't know how he gets it done. Wide receiver 1 was Justin Jefferson with 30.1 fantasy points. Baller. Tight end 1 was George Kittle, 35.1 points. In Debo's absence, he's the one that actually went off. Kicker 1 was Jake Elliott with 17 points. And RB1 on the week, the guy, Javonte Williams, 25.8 points.
I told you guys. I told everybody. I said it. I'm like, listen, follow this train. It's going to happen. I went on uSTADIUM. I said the take. I'm like, I'm going to put as much as I went broke. I had 0 points. I bet like 800, almost 1,000 points. I'm like, Javonte Williams will be the RB1. This is the nuclear game. And boy, was that like, I'm not really, offended by the Broncos loss, but this guy with 29 touches, 172 yards, 7 catches, was it 74 yards he had on the ground?
Something like that, yeah.
A touchdown, it's garbage time touchdown. I know, but you know what? It's fantasy. That's what we love. And that right there,
it is.
That right there is your league winner going forward. Melvin Gordon is going to come back, but you know what? I think Denver saw what they had in this cowboy right here. He is going to ride that horse, and he is going to carry them to maybe 1 or 2 wins. But this, for fantasy, is your league-winning running back, the Jonathan Taylor of last year. Javonte Williams.
I like it.
If Denver, you're smart.
Yeah.
If you're smart, Denver, you're starting this guy. You're giving him 60%, 75% of the touches. Melvin Gordon, give him the rest of them, but this guy will win you games. And next year, I won't even talk about that right now because he's going to be skyrocketing through those dynasty boards and the redraft leagues. So I'm excited right now for this guy.
It was great to see. We've been calling it for a long time, hoping for it to finally happen. It did unfortunately take a Melvin Gordon injury for it to come to fruition. But Javonte Williams, you put all your points on the line for your take of the week that he would finish as RB1. I think there was 12 people that went against it and only 4 people that agreed to buy in. I was one of those people. I mean, and it was great to see. So I'm excited. I'm excited for what he's going to bring in the playoffs for fantasy owners. I'm a little nervous with Mel Gordon coming back. I'm not going to lie, but I'm hoping, like you said, the Denver Broncos saw what they had in the electric rookie, that he continues to carry the workload the rest of the way. Holding Cantor, I traded Javonte earlier in the season, and the same guy I traded him to beat me yesterday because of Javonte. Pain.
Revenge game for Javonte.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, he was averaging like 8.6 points or something like that up until this past week. So it was hard to hold on to him, hoping for that breakout game, but it was finally good to see it come on. RB1 on the week, Javonte Williams.
I'm so excited. And honestly, next week it's the Detroit Lions. Like that's just screams another favorable matchup, regardless if Gordon's playing or not. So I'm considering maybe benching, let's say, a Nick Chubb and probably starting Javonte Williams next week because of the lineup. I love Nick Chubb, but you know what? Matchups, it's like it's week 14. I got to get that extra win. So, but if I don't lose out on a playoff spot. So I could take that risk and see if it pays off for me. So I'm going to ride this hype train. It's Cordero Patterson, Javonte Williams, Michael Carter's in the ER in the back, but he'll come back soon.
Yeah, we saw Holden there. He said he traded for Waller because he had Pitts already. Tough to see, especially with Waller's injury. Waller's a stud either way, but injuries are the unfortunate part of football. We got a special guest for you guys. Before we get to the guests, like the stream, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate all the support. Download the uSTADIUM app. It is in the description. Get in on the takes like Stefan dropping these hot takes that Javonte, and he cashed out at the end of the day. He cashed out.
And I'm going in on yours too. Your Tom Brady for 55 is looking.
Doesn't look too bad. He doesn't look too bad.
21 more touchdowns in 7 games.
Yeah, I mean the pace he's on, man. If he can keep it up, I don't see why not, right? I mean, it'll be unreal at 44 years old, but I don't see why not. Okay, guys, uSTADIUM fans, we got a special guest for you guys today. He's director of analytics for Roto Underworld, one of my personal favorites, player profiler and breakout finder. He has worked for the San Diego Padres and the Detroit Tigers. And if you want to code using football analytics, that ourcodingsite.com is the place you want to look. But most importantly, a breakfast burrito lover, Josh Larky. Josh, welcome to the U, big guy.
How's it going, you guys? It's good to be here. That was a wonderful intro. Thank you. I'm glad that the breakfast burrito part went in there. It's very important.
He does that pretty well, too. Man. It's very important. Mm-hmm. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you coming on the show with us today. But we got a hot topic. First question for you, and it's Patrick Mahomes. In 5 of his last 6 games, he has failed to score 14 or more fantasy points. What do we do with him? Is he, if I dare to say it, droppable at this point?
So I think that there's a few things going on here. So one of them is that the defense, it's gotten a lot healthier. They signed a few guys. They traded a couple of guys. They grabbed Melvin Ingram, who's been really helpful for their front 7. So the past 5 games, actually, no one's hit 20 points against the Chiefs. So their defense is actually doing a pretty good damage control, which isn't necessarily what you want. You kind of want the good quarterback who's on a team with a terrible defense, where he's just slinging it the whole time. So right there, not necessarily great that the defense is very healthy and is playing like a cohesive unit. The other concern is he's just been less accurate. And sure, you can look at the completion percentage and go, oh, he's completing fewer passes, but at Player Profiler, we actually have a team of game charters. They watch every single play from every game, and they're grading the accuracy of every single throw. And you can look on Player Profile, you can see his page and go, wow, Patrick Mahomes, he's number 9 in accuracy rating, this game charter stat. And then you realize that he was basically kind of waffling between number 2 and number 3 on the season. In the last 6 weeks, he's actually been one of the least accurate quarterbacks in the entire NFL. And I think that's kind of concerning because I feel like early on in the season, he had a couple struggles, but it was like, oh, the throws have been there. It was there were a couple Tyreek Hill drops that became interceptions. Mm-hmm. But I think there's there are real concerns going on. I'm still firing him up as a quarterback 1 going forward. I do like that he has this very nice matchup with the Raiders, who he dropped 5 passing touchdowns on a few weeks ago. So hopefully a get-right game for him, but there is concern there. So no, I wouldn't drop him. I don't think that he's terrible. Yes, he's had a bad stretch. The defense is playing better. We might not be we're probably not getting QB1 overall Mahomes that we were drafting him as in fantasy, but I still believe that there's QB1 weeks in him. Looking at the schedule, so he's got that Raiders game. He's got the Chargers defense, who's really they're pretty banged up. I'm a Charger fan. It's going to be just a bloodbath, that game. So I do think that he has he's got those 2 good matchups coming up. Yep. So hopefully he can get right. But I agree. There's real cause for concern.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, there's not many guys that you're going to plug in instead of Patrick Mahomes. There's maybe a handful of them that you're really going to put in there ahead of him. He does bring a safe floor week in and week out, but like you said, man, he's been struggling as of late, but he can definitely turn it around. And I'm excited for the matchup versus the Raiders. We got a couple viewer questions if we want to get to those before we get to a couple of ours. What do you guys think of Dontrell Hillyard for the Tennessee Titans? I mean, he's coming off the bye. He had 100 yards. I think it was scrimmage yards before that versus the Patriots. He's definitely involved in the passing game for the Titans. Is he the one to pick up over Foreman because of his pass catching upside, or is Foreman the guy you think because of the volume?
Well, I think what's difficult about this situation is that, I mean, Hilliard looked phenomenal, great for fantasy, but also McNichols was out.
Exactly.
And out of those three guys, McNichols, Foreman, and Hilliard, I think Hilliard has the most upside just because he's a smaller back, very good in the passing game, clearly. But they did commit and give him they're giving him carries. So he's kind of being used as an all-purpose back. So I think that the highest upside out of the three guys is him. My concern, though, is kind of this wrench that is McNichols. It's just, I think it's just really, really cloudy what they're going to do with him. So I think if you're just totally set, like you're coasting to the playoffs, this week doesn't matter. Yeah, Hilliard, high upside option. If you need the win this week, I would prioritize Foreman, a little bit safer. I think regardless of if McNichols is in or out of this game, I think Foreman has a really clear role. He's just a bigger back, totally different skill set. So I think it just kind of depends what you're looking for.
Exactly.
But I think at this point, the McNichols dream is kind of dead. He's someone that I've always enjoyed watching, but I think if he's active, that it's definitely going to cannibalize Hilliard. But so Hilliard for the upside, Foreman for the safety is kind of how I'm interpreting it. What do you think?
Yeah, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at with it. They both got 100 yards their last game, but Foreman saw more carries, Hilliard saw more catches, but he did have that one breakaway touchdown, which was great to see. Second question here for you. Bench one, Deontay Johnson versus Minnesota, Justin Jefferson versus Pittsburgh, or Jamar Chase versus San Francisco?
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you bench any of those? Actually,
I think you just have to flip a coin.
I mean,
pretty
much.
Go
wrong with that though. Like it's real. I mean, I think Deontay and Jefferson have to be the ones. I mean, Chase is good, but I think they've figured out Chase. You know, I mean, he's still going to have like the good 1,000-yard season, but I think consistency and just if I'm going to rely on one of them, it's going to be Jamar Chase on the bench. So,
yeah, I agree with that. Thoughts on what Henderson's workload might be this week after that no-show last week? Daryl Henderson, I think, from the Rams, he did not see the field, I don't think, at all in that game. So Sony Michel did look pretty decent in relief, but again, it was versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Do you have any thoughts on the Daryl Henderson workload going forward?
I think when he's healthy, he's clearly the guy.
Yeah.
I actually discussed this on podcast a couple of days ago, kind of the three-pronged approach as to why I knew Michel was going to get all the carries for this past week specifically. And it was basically, one, it's the Jaguars. They're going to win this game. Yeah. If Henderson's not fully healthy, Michel just hops right in. Two, they have no running back depth. So if Henderson is still banged up, you don't want to get him more banged up because they lost Akers for the season. Jake Funk, season-ending IR. Buddy Howell, who they had and was kind of their number 3 back, he's on IR with a leg injury. So they had Mekhi Sargent, an undersized, undrafted free agent, is the next man up behind Sony Michel. He ran a mid-4.7 40 at 5'8", 206 or something.
He was on the Titans too at the beginning of the year, wasn't he?
He was. They didn't like him. Yeah, just not the guy that you ever want to have to rely on. So I think it. And then the third thing was I was just looking and went, wow, Henderson's not even practicing. So I think if we see kind of the same situation where Henderson's not really practicing during the week, I think Michel's going to be the guy because this is a team that's locked into a playoff spot. they want to be fully healthy for the stretch
Yeah.
run. And if something happens to Henderson, then it's basically Sony Michel and just total scrubs. So I think we have to kind of monitor the
It's
practice
gonna be
reports once
limited.
again, because
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
the Rams are definitely aware that there's really just nothing after Michel.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. Proceed with caution with Henderson. Is there one analytical stat that you lean on the most when identifying weekly breakouts? And to piggyback on that, who is a week 14 player that isn't on a radar that people should be looking at going into the week?
So there's generally not really like one magic stat. I think if there was
Yeah.
that magic stat, then I would never lose a game because
Yeah,
my
true,
entire
true.
job is spreadsheets. So I would be just totally undefeated because I put in 50, 60, 70 hours a week to the spreadsheet. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, there's not that magic stat that I've identified where I'm like,
This is the one.
No one-
Yeah.
if only they knew what I was looking at. It's not quite that easy, but a few things I look at are, I like looking at routes run. I think that's kind of underrated.
Yeah.
Is looking at snap share, routes run, how many targets a guy's getting, and then the air yards. So I'm really looking at guys that are getting down the field and have some type of air yards where the quarterback's not just handing them short targets. So,
Gotcha.
for example, Laviska Shenault actually gets a lot of targets.
Yep.
The reason, in one way, that he's not fantasy relevant is they're 2 to 3 yards after the line of
Yeah.
scrimmage. So,
Short
and
stuff.
like
yeah.
he's really just has to break a long one, as opposed to a receiver can catch and fall down if they get a 20-yard pass and then they have 20 yards. So I think kind of the routes, target depth is what I'm looking at with receivers. And then with running backs, I also really like to look at the routes run, the targets, and then I also like to look at opportunity share for running backs, because running backs can be pretty game script dependent sometimes. And
Definitely.
often if you look at the opportunity share, you might say like, well, no, this running back only had 7 carries this week. Josh Jacobs was someone who actually had a few concerningly low rush attempts totals before last week.
Yep.
But then you look at how the game played out and it's like, well, he actually is getting a huge percent of the overall Raiders touches. He's getting a lot of targets, and that when they have kind of the ground and pound game, he's clearly their guy, and that we can kind of project that workload. So that's kind of what I try and look for, is people where the fantasy points don't align necessarily with what their usage is.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I got you. So is there a week 14 guy that might be on the waivers that maybe is in the weeds, that, you know, is not the sexiest name on the week that people should be looking at with in terms of probably maybe opportunity share or target share that's come on over the past little bit?
I have a name for you. I don't even fully know. I should probably learn how to pronounce this guy's name at some point. But that's how he's probably on waivers. He had a week 13 bye. People probably forgot about him or just dropped him because it was kind of an end of the bench guy. But
Gotcha.
even in kind of like middle-sized leagues, I'd be starting this guy in the flex. It's Nick Westbrook Akine.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if you know how to. I don't know how to
it.
say his
I
name.
think it's
usually
Akine. Yeah.
Akine.
Nick Westbrook is
Yeah.
what I stick to.
Okay. We'll just call him Nick W.
Yeah, there you go.
So what I like about him is that people are sleeping because he had the week 13 bye.
Yeah. Yep.
Week 12, he saw 67% of the snaps. So he's out there 2/3 of the time, 37 routes. Like the guy was just out there. He's running 8
Running,
targets, 7 catches. He had over 100 receiving yards. And then week 13, it seemed like he came back down to earth. And you go, oh, he had a 100-yard game. And then week 13 comes around. He only had 5 targets, 2 catches, 25 yards. He had the touchdown. He got in the box at least. But still, you go, wow, that's a big difference. But what's important is that he actually had an 81% snap share in week 13. He saw way more snaps in week 13 than week 12. And he saw a similar amount of receiving yards compared to what Tannehill was throwing. So
Gotcha.
Tannehill had over 300 pass yards in week 12. So, of course, if Westbrook's the leading receiver, he's going to have a high stat line. Tannehill against the Patriots in week 13 had 93 pass yards. So his 25 receiving yards were still a similar percent of his team's overall total.
Exactly. Yep.
Now he has the cake matchup. It's Jacksonville. They are the second worst secondary in the NFL. I mean, if the Jets weren't just a historically bad defense, we'd talk about the Jaguars as the clear worst secondary. So they're the second worst secondary. It's going to just be a total feast because there's just nobody else there to run the routes, to get the targets. And in such an easy matchup, it's just really hard to see Westbrook not having at least a pretty respectable stat line where I think if you're starting him, he's not going to hurt you. He's probably got that nice 8+ fantasy point floor, but we could see another one of those 100 receiving yard games out of him. So I like Westbrook this week.
Yeah, I like that one. I like that name. Julio, I don't think he's back, or he was designated to practice, but he's not back. So he's not going to be an option. Marcus Johnson's out. AJ Brown's out. And I think the only other pass catching option on that team is Chester Rogers. But other than that,
like their day 3 rookie, Des Fitzpatrick. It's dusty.
So it's perfect term for that one. I really like that ad. And Nick, NWI, we'll call him. Keep it short. With some of the big disappointments this year, like Allen Robinson, maybe a Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We had all the injuries to running backs, first-round running backs. We had some players just get hurt and go out. Jalen Hurts got hurt this past week, but you're not dropping a guy like Jalen Hurts. But who is a one higher profile player that you think is safe to drop heading into the playoffs?
So this it's not too spicy. I wasn't quite sure league size and whatnot, but I think pretty much no matter your league size, unless you're starting 15 players a week, this is not someone that you should be starting. It's Cortland Sutton. He's overlapped with Jerry Jeudy in 6 games this year. In those 6 games, he's averaging 3.5 targets. That's not very good. Under 2 catches a game. Oh, that's not very good either. 20.5 receiving yards a game. That's it. No touchdowns in any of those 6 games. Just drop the guy. He doesn't have any type of fantasy relevant role because he's sharing the field with Jeudy, Fant, Tim Patrick, Albert Okui-Boonham. The running backs are pretty involved. And then on top of all that, where I just listed 6 names. Oh yeah, it's Teddy Bridgewater. This isn't the most high flying pass attack either. So
Javonte.
When he's being crowded out by players that are able to get open at will, like a Jerry Jeudy, and that a Teddy Bridgewater who's looking closer to the line of scrimmage. He's very accurate, not a very strong arm. Probably going to be favoring a Jerry Jeudy who's getting open compared to the outside clasher in Cortland Sutton, who's running the deeper routes and just really struggling to get open. So just drop Sutton, big name, but you're not going to start him in the playoffs.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that. He was one of my big drops of the week as well. His numbers with Jerry Jeudy back in the fold have not been good, like you just stated. So yeah, drop Cortland Sutton. I totally agree with that. We got one more question before we let you go. Again, we got Josh Larky here with us. At uSTADIUM, we have rolled out the new Takes app feature where you're going to be able to use the points that you accumulate on the app to buy into other people's sports takes or any take across the board and even promote your own takes. Stefan had one this weekend that Javonte Williams would finish as the fantasy scoring RB1, and he cashed in on that one. Josh, give us your money-making Week 14 hot take.
So this wide receiver, he's been a little quiet the last 5 weeks in the fantasy points department, but that kind of masks how elite this guy's usage has been. In fact, he busted loose and dropped a surefire 80-yard touchdown that would have given him over 20 fantasy points in week 13. But I'm glad he didn't catch it because this week people are he's not on our radar. And I had to be a little quiet earlier in the show. You'll find out in a second, but I know fantasy managers, you're frustrated. I've heard people even saying I might have to sit him, but good news. The running back on his team is banged up with a neck injury, and his team happens to be facing the overall number 3 rush defense. So there's 2 incentives right now for this team to pass. And it's a slightly below average pass defense. I'm talking about Jamar Chase facing the San Francisco 49ers. 25 fantasy points for Jamar Chase in week 14. He gets back to it.
I like
Ooh.
it. I like the take. I love the take. Jamar Chase, 25 fantasy points on the week. You heard it from Josh right there. I'm going to put that one on the takes feature so you guys can buy into that take. I love it. Jamar Chase is going to ball out this week. Josh, we appreciate your time. We appreciate you coming on the show and giving us the knowledge that you bring with fantasy football and the whole analytics side of it. That's my favorite part of the game. The floor is yours. Let the people know where they can find you. Let them know what you got going on. Fantasy football, outside of fantasy football. The mic is hot, man.
Cool. Thanks, you guys, for having me on. You can find me on Twitter at JLarkyTweets. I just started a TikTok at JLarky TikToks. Got 200 followers there, so you can get in on the ground floor with that one and watch me grow incredibly slowly. It's a tough platform for me. Regarding some research, I actually this week on playerprofiler.com, you will see a player prop strategy article that I've researched and written. Player props are incredibly difficult. I mean, anyone that's done it seriously knows that you're probably going to lose money. In fact, almost everyone loses money. That's how these sites get really rich. Yep. They actually stack the odds against you. And that unless you do the math yourself, you're probably walking right in to horrible picks, and that you're making your parlays on one of these sites and you're like, oh, I'm sure that this pick 4 is going to cash. And you know what? I can pretty much guarantee you that unless you yourself have been doing the math to understand what the odds are, you're probably making the wrong picks. I actually lost a $100 deposit last year on a player prop platform because I was so casual about it. I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. I'm just going off my gut. I'm sure I can know over under on this. Lost my $100 deposit and I vowed never again. I've put in a lot of research. I've made thousands of dollars on player props this year as redemption. And I want to share that strategy with everyone because there's no article like that out there right now. And I think there's just so many people kind of walking into this trap where they think because I play fantasy, I'm going to be good at player props. If you want to be good at player props, you have to understand what the odds are and where the advantage lies, because there are clear-cut ways that without much research, you can make money on player props. So that article will come out very soon. Very excited about it because there's nothing out there like it right now. So looking forward to that one. So that'll be coming out sometime this week.
Looking forward to that. Yeah.
I love player props. So
Steph is big into it for sure.
I've had a few of them where you're right, like that one leg will hit and like say like an anytime touchdown Stefan Diggs doesn't happen, or the receptions prop, and it's just like that one thing. And I think that I know what's going to happen when it doesn't. You're like, why didn't it happen? So to have a clear-cut way, like you said, to go somewhere and actually know what you're doing and actually win some money, I'll probably be one of the first ones to go after that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Right on, Josh. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Good luck this week and into the playoffs, man.
Thanks, you guys.
Right on. That was Josh Larky at J Larky Tweets on Twitter. Get at him and look for that player props article that he's going to write on playerprofiler.com. I'm excited for that. I'm going to check up on that for sure. I'm just getting in really deep into the player prop stuff to win some cash. Everyone loves money, right?
Oh, yeah. Even like I'm better fantasy. I took like a freaking 7-team like parlay for like 25.
Yeah.
And like, it's like if I would have just done under on everything, I would have won. But I'm like overthinking, like analyzing everything. And then you think, oh, this guy's good enough to have this, and this guy's good enough to have that. And then next thing you know, none of that happens.
None of it works out.
Mac Jones throws two passes when you thought he'd throw at least 24. So
yeah, I like it. Yeah, that was tough, man.
It was a good game. I mean, 46 runs, 2 passes. Yep. Like, hey, I'll take it. It's a win. So I mean, thank God I had no one in fantasy or no like implications that I needed like 20 points from this guy, and like whoever needed points, I'm sorry you didn't get them unless you had, Harris. But outside of that, it was old school slugfest football, and that's why I liked it the most, because it was just old school and I had no stress, didn't have to worry about anything. So I'm like, all right, perfect, and relax, kick back, and just enjoy Monday Night Football.
Yeah, I like it. All right, let's get into our week 14 must adds. Let me start off by saying again that if Sony Michel is on your wire, Adam, he is owned in 68% of Yahoo leagues. If Elijah Moore is available in your league, Adam, I mean, he's only available in 20% of Yahoo leagues. And that goes the same with Baby Blunt, Ramondre Stevenson. If he's available in your leagues, go Adam. I mean, these guys are going to be key role players for their teams heading into the fantasy playoffs. But we're going to get into some guys that are owned in 50% or less of Yahoo leagues for you guys. And to start off, we're going with wide receiver KJ Osborne. Thielen's going to miss some time. And in his absence last game, KJ stepped up to take over that wide receiver 2 role behind Justin Jefferson. This also opens the door for tight end Ty Conklin as a great streaming option heading into the week. He's owned in 30% of Yahoo leagues with a quick turnaround for their Thursday night football matchup. I'm looking for KJ to be a nice accent piece in the Minnesota offense. They play the Steelers, who are mid against the wide receiver over the past 4 weeks. And on the season, are the 24th ranked defense versus the position. I mean, the guy has run over 220 routes from the slot and on the season, and the Steelers are allowing a near 2,000 yards to the slot wide receivers so far. So I'm expecting Osborne to head into the week with a decent floor, and beyond that as well into week 15 versus Chicago Bears. Steph, do you own any KJ Osborne? Are you adding KJ Osborne? Is there another wide receiver in Minnesota that you're kind of maybe trying to grab?
Honestly, I don't think so. I think Osborne, it's again, this year, I've said it in many shows before, it's not sexy, but it works. KJ Osborne's going into a role that Adam Thielen left out. I personally think he's younger. He has the ability. He's shown when he's been put into a situation, he can score. He can be that guy. I personally don't have any shares of him. I see him on my waiver wire, but the problem is I have $1 left in my fab, so I can't really. I got the players that I needed, so like if I don't get them, I'm okay with it. But if you need a receiver Thielen's out for 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, I know Conklin's going to get the uptake. Justin Jefferson's going to get a just monstrous number of catches and targets, but that just still leaves at least 5 to 6 catches a game for KJ Osborne. And if you can get him for cheap, nothing too crazy, and he's only 5% owned, it's like this guy is sitting there waiting like, hey, I'm right here. Pick me. I got you. So I think this week he could do good. Pittsburgh, you said, is middle of the pack, but I've seen Kirk Cousins do everything good when it's not a primetime game. So
exactly,
as long as it's not in primetime, you're good to go, baby.
Yeah. I mean, I like the Addies. Decent wide receiver 3 flex appeal for me coming into the week and into next week. I'm not too sure how long Thielen's going to be out, so he could be a temporary fill-in. But if you're going to need a guy that's going to be able to do it for you, KJ Osborne might be that guy because, let's face it, the Steelers struggle versus the slot wide receiver, and that's where he plays most of the time. Our next player on the list, wide receiver Russell Gage. Stefan, why should we add Russell Gage?
I mean, this guy is one of the most intriguing players in fantasy this year. You came into the season thinking like, okay, Russell Gage has been a baller when Julio Jones was out last year. He's got almost 700 yards. And then he comes in this year, he does nothing. Then he comes in, and when he's supposed to do something, when Ridley's out, Patterson was out, he did nothing. Yeah. But now it looks like he's getting his mind right. He had 12 targets.
That's 12. A big number, man. Big number.
Like Patterson was there, Kyle Pitts was there, Zacchaeus was there, Mike Davis was there, and he still got 12 targets for 130 yards. I mean, that's a baller. I mean, he's back. He redeemed himself. If you started him somewhere, bravo. I'm gonna hand it to you right now. I don't know what you know that I didn't, but I think going forward, he could be a good receiver 3 flex. Yeah. He's someone like if you say lost Thielen, if you have some injuries, play him there. I mean, how much worse can this Falcons offense get? You really can't get worse than this. And they're going to be in games that they're down. They're going to be games that they're going to be losing by like 15, 14, and they're going to be passing it a lot. And to get 12 targets against a not the best defense or secondary in Tampa, but a better one, it's still impressive. So
Yeah,
I think he's
I
a
agree.
higher must-add, and I think he can help you win some games going forward. So
Yeah, he's fitted into that wide receiver one role for Atlanta. He's taking over those duties from Calvin Ridley. He's over the past 5 games, he's averaged 7.6 targets. So rest of season schedule, he's got Carolina, which isn't that great of a matchup for the wide receiver. But we saw what Jalen Waddle did to them in their last game. The dude absolutely went off. Russell Gage is not Jalen Waddle, but I mean, we can see that the wide receivers can have success against some more of these stout teams. After Carolina, he's got San Fran, Detroit, and Buffalo. So 15 and 16 for that the first round and the second round of the playoffs there. I mean, he might be a guy that's going to pole vault you into the championship because of those plus matchups, right? And like Josh said at the top of the show there, you kind of want that quarterback, maybe a quarterback wide receiver on a team that doesn't really have a great defense. So you can get those garbage time points, those catch-up points that they're going to be looking to accumulate, right? So I definitely don't hate the Russell Gage ad this coming week. Next up is running back for the New York Jets. We were hoping we were thinking it was going to be Ty Johnson, but Tevin Coleman has been the guy to lean on in that backfield with Michael Carter out of the lineup for most likely another couple weeks. It looks like the Jets have found their RB1 in Coleman, 27 carries over the past 2 games. 4 of them in the red zone last game, which is a great number for the running back. He's taking over that kind of red zone role, but he's handling a lot of the carries. You don't want to throw too much fab on him because, again, he could be that short-term guy. But if you're the JT owner this week, who's on bye, if you're the Mitchell owner, Mitchell's in the concussion protocol. If he doesn't get released from the concussion protocol, he might be a guy that you want to pick up to use it as a fill-in for this week. His floor is what's going to make him trustworthy because he's going to see almost half the carries. Doesn't see too much of the pass catching ability for the running back. Ty Johnson kind of carries that load, but his volume is what's going to make him, and the red zone presence is what's going to make him useful.
Weird.
Yeah, it's really weird because I didn't see it coming in the past couple weeks when we talked about picking up Ty Johnson, but I mean, I like it. And if the Jets can stay in games, if they can compete, they're going to utilize the running back. So add Tevin Coleman, if anything, for a spot start this week.
And he's a good receiver. I mean, Tevin Coleman's not the Atlanta Falcons of, Tevin Coleman, but it's like when the Jets are a team that they're going to lose and they're going to be down by 25 to 35 points a week, this guy's going to get that garbage time stuff. And I know no one cared about garbage time, but hey, in fantasy football, I'll take a win if it means I got 10 points in the last drive. This guy could easily get you a garbage time touchdown, 50 yards on a drive or something like that. And he can salvage you an RB3, flex kind of a day. So don't go too crazy because it's getting to that point of the season where you're not going to have that much money, but also, like we keep saying, it's not going to go with you into the off season.
Yeah.
So have a little fun with the money, spend it.
Tegan Peterson asks, KJ Osborne or Chase Claypool?
Chase Claypool, man. I don't. If air yards were like fantasy points, he'd be a god. But
that's
it.
True. But the opportunity for big time breakout plays is there for Chase Claypool more than it is there for KJ Osborne. KJ Osborne might see more targets, but I think I'm going to lean Chase Claypool as well. Yeah, it's going to turn around there. It's going to turn around from. It's going to get a good output there. Next up on the board, one of our favorite situations, the Tennessee Titans backfield. It's running back Dontrell Hillyard. A couple weeks ago, we were saying Donta Foreman, who respectively had a good day, 19 carries, 100 yards versus the Pats, but Hilliard is the more explosive guy in that backfield. What do you got? What do you got to say about Hilliard? You see there shaking your head.
I've been bamboozled, man. Like I was led to think that Donta Foreman was the guy. Like But you know what? Hilliard looks like a smaller version of Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
I know, but I'm not saying skill-wise, but like he's a powerful runner. He can catch the ball. And if you need an RB, this guy's going to probably give you an RB2 numbers because they have no one else. I mean, yeah, McNichols is coming back. Foreman's good, but I think that playmaker ability and like just, I don't know, just something about him. I feel like he's just going to be that guy. I feel like going forward, he's going to be a guy that you're going to be okay flexing. I mean, I would say one more. If you have someone better than him, like that's going to produce you points, start, put him on the bench, start that guy. But if he does good this week, people are going to start to look in the waiver wire and say, hey, whoa, wait a minute, Dontrell Hillyard. And they're going to scroll, and they're going to say, oh my God, Chris picked him up last week.
Yeah.
And he's going off for like a decent game. So get him now. If he doesn't go off, hold him because you never know. But if he does go off and you're going to be looking at someone else that's got the guy, and like one of our comments said that Javonte beat the guy he traded to him. So don't be that guy.
Yeah. And his next two matchups is Pittsburgh Steelers and Detroit. So the possibility for good days for Hilliard is what I'm looking for there. Or I think he has Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, and then Detroit.
So, Jacksonville. So this is right here.
Yeah,
I mean, come on, there you go.
3 weeks of potential solid performance for. I mean, even if Foreman's on your wire too, and you miss out on Hilliard, pick up Foreman because he's got the value with the amount of his usage that they give him the ball. He got 19 carries, 100 yards. Hilliard, I think, only had 12 carries that game. So, but he's seeing the pass catching and he's more explosive. So I like the upside Hilliard brings, and I like the floor that Foreman brings as well. What's this week's Bateman outlook?
It's exactly what it says it is. It's bait.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, the offense as a whole hasn't been that great passing wise. We're going to get into some drops later, and he's on my list of drop candidates because I just don't like what I've been seeing out of that passing game from the Ravens. It's been Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown and not much after that, right?
I mean,
Lamar hasn't really looked that sharp as of late. He's thrown a couple bad interceptions. I hate that little sidearm throw that he has where he just floats it in there. But, I mean, he had one target the past week. The Baltimore Ravens are heading into a part of their schedule where they're going to have a lot of these cold weather, windy games. So not a recipe for success for any kind of passing attack, let alone the Baltimore Ravens passing attack. So fantasy-wise, I think I'm okay dropping Bateman. I saw an actual funny tweet on the weekend where it said Rashad Bateman has entered the transfer portal. I thought it was pretty clever. I had a good chuckle at that. I'm still laughing at that. But let's get to our last must-add waiver week 14 waiver wire player, the hero for the Detroit Lions. The dude had an unbelievable day. You could say it's his breakout game. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's second in receiving yards behind TJ Hawkinson. The Lions may have found a steady wide receiver in St. Brown. Khalif Raymond is a thing of week 4. And after the game that he had this past week versus the Vikings, a big piece to the Lions winning their first game. Amon-Ra is going to be leaned on a bit more, especially with Swift out. So Lions to the playoffs. There's still a chance. They're still alive. I mean,
66 things went right this week for them to not be eliminated, and Houston was the first team to be eliminated. So that's
there you go. And they got more wins than the Lions do. So they still got a chance. I mean, 10 targets, 86 yards, the game-winning touchdown. You're adding St. Brown here because of his playoff schedule. You want to ride the high of the Detroit Lions. He's got the eye of Jared Goff, which is what I like, right? You know what Jared Goff can do with those quick, shifty wide receivers We've seen him do it with Cooper Kupp in LA, and we're seeing the relationship develop here with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Over the past 4 games, he's had 6.8 targets. He's facing Denver week 14, Atlanta week 16, and Seattle week 17. So pick this man up, especially in deeper leagues, if he is there, and stash him for those positive matchups.
This guy, I mean, we called it. I think I had him as a sleeper start like weeks ago.
Yeah,
6 weeks off. What I see this guy doing, I even said on our show on Sunday, I'm like, there's no other guy on that team that's going to be good enough to start. You know, I was just trash talking the Lions, and even watching the game, they let the touchdown to Jefferson. I'm like, oh, this can't happen. They're going to break our hearts. Amon-Ra St. Brown's like, no, this is a different story. And I think, Dan Campbell did mention it. He's like, hey, once you get that first win, things start to kind of get slowly going. Jared Goff has that monkey off his back. He's got the first win without, Sean McVay. But I think going forward, the Lions might have found something that can work to try to upset a few teams, get another win or two. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Swift's not going to be abused like he was. Hawkinson and Jamal Williams, that could be a viable, fantasy guy going forward.
Yeah.
And that matchup you said 3 weeks in a row, flex wide receiver 2. I mean, who else is he going to throw to? Josh Reynolds is still hanging out around Thanksgiving. Like you said, Cleve Raymond's still week 4. Yeah. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's a rookie, and he's a damn good rookie, I think. So
yeah, and I think that the Lions coaching staff, they like to kind of coach with emotion, and the fact that Amon-Ra was the guy to catch the winning touchdown, I think he's going to garner more attention from that passing offense. And like I said, with Swift out, he's definitely going to see more of a target share because they're not just going to dump it down to the wide receiver. Like we didn't see that with Jamal Williams, like we see that with DeAndre Swift, right? So he's definitely a guy that I'm looking to add on my fantasy rosters. I got some honorable mentions here. Donta Foreman, running back for the Tennessee Titans. Josh mentioned him as his kind of sleeper ad for the week. It's Nick Westbrook. Splash tried to help me produce this one or pronounce this name. Ikanai, but we'll call him NWI. Ricky Seals-Jones with the injury to Logan Thomas. Ricky Seals-Jones should be added, if anything, as a stash tight end. Jermichael Hasty, running back for the 49ers. Jeff Wilson did aggravate an injury, and Elijah Mitchell's in the concussion protocol. I mean, what other dangerous job is there out there other than a 49ers running back? Like I don't know. That's all of them. That's all of them.
It's frustrating too because I had him for 10 weeks on my bench. Everyone. I know there's a bunch of other people out there that are like, oh my God, Jeff Wilson, we finally got him. 10 carries against the Rams. Okay. I see a question mark. I'm like, God, what happened? Undisclosed. I'm like, oh man, knee. Yeah. I'm like, I'm getting ready to throw my phone. Like, I'm like, I wasted 10 weeks for you. Yeah. And I think I'm just gonna drop him. It just got me frustrated because I wasted so much time and then I dropped the roster spot and I lost a player I can't get back now. So like, is it serious or is he gonna be like the Raheem Mostert, just out every time he touches the ball?
Who knows, man? Who knows? But any 49ers running back has to get on a soapbox and demand danger pay because it is not a good look.
They're paying a lot of workman's comp right now.
Yeah, exactly. Another honorable mention, Taysom Hill. He did have a finger injury. I think the same thing as Russell Wilson. So kind of watch that situation there. If it's not Taysom Hill, honorable mention, Trevor Siemian. They are facing the Jets this week. So great streaming option there. We saw what Taysom can do on the ground. Not very much of a passer, but fantasy purposes as a runner, the guy's a stud. Amir Abdullah, running back for the Carolina Panthers, should definitely have your eyes on him. He's you could get him for cheap, if not free this week. And if he goes off, you're not going to end up missing out on him if you don't have much fab dollars. So these are kind of guys that if you're low in the fab wallet department, that you're going to be able to pick up for cheap or almost free. And then you got Rashad Penny, who had a decent day for the Seattle Seahawks. Another situation there where guys just can't stay healthy. Chris Carson's done for the year. Alex Collins was inactive. DJ Dallas is almost kind of non-existent. And then you got Rashad Penny. It was good to see him finally finish the game and not come out with an injury.
Yep.
I'm still waiting for the injury report. The Seattle Seahawks is guaranteed to end up on that.
You just at 2 a.m. just scroll what's going on, please.
Yeah, exactly. You have any honorable mentions?
What week is it? Is it that time yet? Is it that time of the year? It's like early Christmas for certain people, i.e. Ravens fans and their boy. I mean, this guy has a history of doing this every year. I think we know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
My boy, yours truly, Sammy Watkins. It's time.
Sammy Watkins.
It's week 14 and week 15. These will be the weeks. These will be the weeks. He did have a touchdown last week. He was like, she's teasing us. Hey, you know what? I'm taking it. I'm going to go ahead and spend $1 that I have left. I don't get him, but I'm going to tell you guys right now, Sammy Watkins is going to have himself a week. This week or next week or both weeks, but I really think it'll happen this week.
Yeah.
Book it.
It's time, right? It's time. On a 1 to 100 scale, how confident are you with starting Lamar Jackson during the fantasy playoffs, given his recent rut? I mean, it's kind of like the Pat Mahomes situation. He's not a guy that you're going to sit for many other guys. Like Russell Wilson or Lamar Jackson, Steph?
Oh, Lamar Jackson.
Right?
Yeah.
Ryan Tannehill, Lamar Jackson. Matt Stafford, Lamar Jackson.
I'm sorry. I love Matt Stafford.
No, don't be sorry. His rushing ability alone is what's going to put him over the edge over a lot of these guys.
And he's been slumping. He's been slumping. We know that he's been slumping. And he had a 50-point game in fantasy this season, a 40-point game. This guy is going to come back. It's just every player cannot score 50 points per game for you. You know, if you're unfortunate, he lost you some, matchups this week to get into the playoffs. That's unfortunate. If he won you some matchups, if you're in the playoffs, he's going to be one of the reasons why you win your fantasy leagues. Yeah. Lamar is going to have 100 yards a game, 200 yards passing, and he's going to get it right. This last game was like a shockwave in Baltimore. Like, holy crap, we have to get it right. That was an embarrassing loss. And going forward, I think next week against Cleveland, it's going to be the opposite of what it was week 12. Yeah. So I expect Lamar to come out, and I think he's going to have a good game.
Yeah, he's just holding on to the ball maybe just a little bit too long, trying to make those stretch plays. But again, man, his upside is why you're gonna keep him plugged into your lineups. There's not many other guys that you're gonna put above Josh Allen. Lamar Jackson. So thanks for the question, Splash. We appreciate that one. Always a hot topic with these top end quarterbacks who go on slumps. Let's just hope he turns it around. I hope he turns it around. I'm sure he's going to turn it around. Fantasy wise, at least we know he's going to turn it around. Got some week 14 streamers for us, Steph.
Honestly, some defenses. I noticed I haven't really said much defenses in the past, and I've seen some that have won me leagues, that have lost me leagues, and some matchups I do like. My favorite one of the week is going to be the Saints versus the Jets. I mean, I expect that to be an interception fest, a sack fest. Your New Orleans Saints have the best, one of the best run defenses, a decently good pass offense. And when you're going against Elijah Moore, I love the guy, but he's not elite yet. So I think Marshawn Lattimore and the boys are going to get back on track to get their win. And I think that defense makes a statement. Another one I like is the Seahawks defense against Houston. I mean, I was surprised that Seattle held their own against San Francisco 49ers. I thought that game was going to be like a blowout game. They came out, they had the freaking punt return for a touchdown. So you not only got points for Homer getting that touchdown, but you got points for their defense. So I think going forward, they could have a pretty good schedule. And I see Donovan Peoples-Jones on the waiver wire. Mm-hmm. I also think that's a passing offense that's going to get better as they go as well. They got Kareem Hunt back, Nick Chubb's back. I mean, everyone's healthy. Then Njoku did go on the IR. So that kind of does boost him. And also his teammate, Austin Hooper. I think he also gets a bump up for a tight end in that wasteland that it is. I think Hooper is more on the side of the upside than Peoples-Jones is. I think Jones is more of a stash, but Hooper could be a starter for the next few weeks. I mean, their schedule is not too crazy. They got Baltimore, Vegas, Green Bay, and then Pittsburgh. All teams that have been decent against the tight end. So that's my top one.
I like the list. I like the list there. I also have the Seahawks defense as a streamer. They got Davis Mills, who's possibly starting for the Texans this week, and we know his track record this year hasn't been that great when he's given the opportunity. I also got Broncos defense owned in 46% of leagues versus, fortunately, the Detroit Lions. They're coming off a high. I got Gerald Everett. He did have a
weird
bad game, but he continues to see a high target share in an offense, and he should be added as he's facing the Texans as well. So the matchup is great there. Foster Moreau, we were expecting Foster Moreau to have a good day his past game with Waller out, but didn't see it. But he plays the Chiefs. The Raiders need a win to stay in the playoff race. The Chiefs defense has allowed the 8th most fantasy points to the position. So the matchup is favorable. I'm expecting it to be a high scoring game. We've said that for the past few weeks with the Chiefs, and it just hasn't turned out that way. Josh mentioned that their defense as a whole has really turned a corner. So kind of beware with that one. And then, of course, I got New Orleans. Whoever starts for the New Orleans Saints for a quarterback, whether it's Taysom Hill or Trevor Siemian versus the Jets, should be streamed. Let's get into a little bit of a hot topic. Drop players that, you're okay cutting bait on. But before we do, uSTADIUM has teamed up with MyBookie, the best online sports book, to bring you an awesome exclusive promo. If you go to mybookie.website/bet with uSTADIUM, that's mybookie.website/bet with uSTADIUM, the letter U, Stadium, you can set yourself up for success by doubling your first deposit, minimum $45, when using promo code uSTADIUM. That's USTADIUM at MyBookie. That's promo code uSTADIUM to double up your initial deposit all the way up to $1,000. Bet anything, anywhere, anytime with MyBookie. Again, that's mybookie.website/bet with uSTADIUM using promo code uSTADIUM. All right, Steph, give me your hot topic drops. Cortland Sutton was on my list. He just isn't seeing the production to be rosterable in Judy's return, and Bridgewater has been bad. I got Rashad Bateman as a drop. I don't see him.
That's a hot one, though.
It's a hot one. I mean, he did see his worst week this past week, 1 target. I haven't liked what I've seen out of the Ravens passing offense for anyone that's not named Marquise Brown or Mark Andrews. I got Kenny Golladay. It's not looking, and it hasn't looked good for Kenny G and his time in New York. Drop him.
He's robbed them. He is
he really has. Someone call the cops because he's committed robbery. And then I got, this guy, he's had some up and down weeks, but I think I'm okay dropping Nyheim Hines.
Oh, yeah.
Scared
me for a second. I'm like, wait a minute.
It's JT's backfield, and we saw Deion Kane play nicely in relief. Hines becomes an untrustworthy boom or bust player on a weekly basis, and I'm okay with my opponents putting him into his lineup, so I'm comfortable dropping Nyheim Hines.
I mean, yeah. I think even on a bye week, Jonathan Taylor's startable, so don't worry about it,
You're not wrong, man. You're not wrong. If you can average out his points on the year and just use that to fill your bye,
you'd still do it.
JT's better than half the running backs there. But yeah.
Honestly, I just wrote some down. Some quick names for animal drops. I've just got to the conclusion. Jeff Wilson is going to be droppable for me now. I just put a waiver claim in for someone else. Kadarius Toney as well. If you're holding him, I did see him on some waiver wires. The kid he's got the talent. Maybe if it's a dynasty league, keep him. But in redraft leagues, it's like you're not doing anything for me. Kenny Galladay was a big one too. This guy should just not be on any team. Allen Robinson, if you're still holding on to him, these are names that just cut these tails off, get him out of here. Rojo, and I think honestly the last two, Cole Beasley and Myles Gaskin.
Ooh, Miles
Myles
Gaskin's a
Gaskin,
hot one.
I mean, what, like, he's gotten 2 games, but like going forward, he's got the Jets, and then he's got New Orleans, and he's got Tennessee. I just
Yeah.
don't trust him. I think that at this point, I don't know. I think it's a crazy one. I mean, I just don't like the situation there. I mean,
Yeah,
he's had
yeah.
boom games, but hey, it's Tua's team. Tua's a good passer, and I think all these mouths to feed, he might start to get phased out soon. It's a
Yeah.
hot take too, so I'm gonna go on the uSTADIUM app, and I'm gonna also put that, see how that goes, and we'll go from there.
Bang. Now that's a bearish bomb. I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah, Miles Gaskin hasn't been too bad, man. I don't know if I could drop him yet, but again, I
12-man
agree.
league, borderline.
Yeah,
10-man
yeah.
league. 10-man league. Yeah, I mean, like 10-mans, all that kind of stuff. 12-man, he's getting to that point.
Yeah,
So.
again, roster construction, league scoring, all that stuff comes into play. But yeah, I don't necessarily hate it, but it'd be tough to drop Miles right now. I want to see what their usage is going to be with Philip Lindsay. I want to see how they're going to try to bring him into that role, because I kind of have him almost as the same back. They're almost built the same. They have the same kind of skill set. So I kind of see them as the same running back there. I was hoping Salvin Ahmed was going to take on a bit more of a
He was
role.
a hot name too.
Yeah, with Malcolm Brown going down. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't hate it too much. It's spicy, but I like spicy, man.
Are you dropping Van Jefferson? Like if you roster him, what do you feel about like what he does? Because he had a good game, but he also had a good amount of drops.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm kind of torn between like if I drop him, or is he just gonna like be consistent with OBJ there still?
I don't mind dropping him just because I don't see him as a league winner. And there's a bunch of guys that I would rather start ahead of him. Like I would rather start Nick Westbrook ahead of him, especially this week. Yeah, just because the opportunity that Westbrook's going to have, or the opportunity that Jefferson has. He does have a role in that offense, so maybe he's more of a deeper league stash. But I mean, if you're in a league with a short bench, 10-team leagues, I mean, I don't mind cutting them loose.
And what are you doing with Brandon Cooks? These are guys I don't know what to do with. So like I've asked people, and I just like Brandon Cooks. Is he just sitting on my bench? Like, is that offense ever going to be clicking enough this season to like actually start him in the playoffs? Like, is he not starting going forward?
Losing Tyrod is going to hurt, because Davis Mills, he's capable, but is he capable of keeping Brandon Cooks relevant? That's what's going to be have to be seen there, right? Because like we talked about earlier, you want that wide receiver quarterback on those bad teams, but if the quarterback just isn't capable to move the ball down the field, if he isn't capable to get those first downs to keep the offense rolling, then players like a Brandon Cooks become almost useless, right? In those kind of situations. So, give me a wide receiver on the Falcons who don't necessarily have the best team, but they have a capable quarterback. Same with the Steelers. Like Ben Roethlisberger is not the best, but he can still make those throws. I want to see that out of a guy like Davis Mills before I can trust Brandon Cooks in my lineups.
Russell Gage or Brandon Cooks then?
Right now, I think I'm going Russell Gage, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
I figured.
Yeah, right now I think I'm going Russell Gage.
Who would have thought you said that? That's why I love this year so much. 2021 is the year of the nonsense, the year of the spewing garbage of players you never thought you would say.
Yeah.
So it just adds to the sprinkle of it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a guy that I don't get attached to names or anything like that. I don't try not to get attached to past performances and stuff like that. I like to project the future and what's going to happen. I mean, it burns me a lot, but
you got to cut those ties.
It also helps out in situations like that where, do I start Russell Gage, who's had a lot more opportunity lately? He's got the better quarterback. Or do I start, I think football wise, Brandon Cooks is a better wide receiver than Russell Gage on the field, but fantasy wise, the situation in Houston is a lot more dire than the situation in Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta's still got an outside chance to make the playoffs.
Yep.
So they're going to have to throw the ball. They're going to have to score to stay in these games. So give me that over Brandon Cooks, who just lost his QB1. He's got Davis Mills throwing him the ball. And like you said, they're officially eliminated from the playoffs. So they're not really playing for a whole lot,
nothing.
right? So yeah, give me Russell Gage in the situation.
I like that.
Anything else? I think that's it for us, big guy.
Yeah, I mean, what, week 14? Guys,
Week
who was
14.
watching, if you're fighting for playoff seedings, I mean, if you want to upset someone, do not stop playing. Get the points you need. The points for us can get you the seeding. Just keep playing. Keep being active on the waiver wire. Don't quit. It's week 14. Just ruin someone's chance to get a bye week, someone's chance to get a 6 seed. Because that, if you don't make it, but you've bringing someone down with you down there to the consolation bracket, it's going to be a damn good feeling. So.
That is, man. Don't quit. Have some integrity. Have some pride.
Yep.
You know, leagues only succeed when owners are active. No one wants to play in a league where guys just stop setting their lineups halfway through because they're out. So I love it. Start your studs, set your lineup, and we'll see you guys Sunday.
Have a good one, guys.
Good luck.